Got Kurt in the house today. So how you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Sitting here enjoying my first week of NFL Sunday.
Cool, man. Who you got winning today?
Oh man, I got a couple teams I picked, but I'm a huge Saints fan, so we got the Saints playing the Titans, and it's coming down to the wire. It looks like it's gonna be close.
Cool, man. So hopefully they get it done.
Yeah, we won't keep you too long then. But we appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
no worries.
Appreciate you working with us.
Yeah, man. So first question I was going to ask you was, so you started training MMA and jiu-jitsu about 2008. Is that right?
Yeah, somewhere late 2007, 2008. I want to say, I might have either been 20 or 21. I just made 36. So, I mean, it's going on 15, 16 years.
What inspired you to get into MMA and jiu-jitsu?
Just always being a fight fan. I was a huge fan of boxing at the time, right when Mike Tyson and the Holyfield era was out there. And then, the UFC had launched, and, you had, Hoist Gracie, Ken Shamrock. And then I was a wrestling fan. So I used to watch Ken Shamrock and WWE wrestling. And, then the Tito Ortiz and the Chuck Liddell started coming, and I was just a big fight fan. And once I graduated school, MMA wasn't as big at that time. I graduated in like 2004, and I had heard that some of the guys I graduated with was doing cage fighting, and I'm thinking, and you don't know the difference at the moment between the UFC and the local cage fighting show at this time. So I'm thinking, man, that is awesome. But shit, if they could do it, I can do it. I want to be a fighter, and found a gym, started training.
Cool, man. I wanted to ask you this before I forget to ask you. Are you good friends with Jellyroll by any chance?
Good friends. I just met Jellyroll, right? Because I've been a Jellyroll fan for a while now, and being on the Ultimate Fighter show with Michael Chandler, he's actually really good friends with Jellyroll. He came on Chandler's podcast, and they broke down one of the episodes of Tough. And me and my wife was in Vegas 2 weeks ago, or last weekend, whenever it was, and which we had already knew we was going to Vegas. She was competing, and we knew Jellyroll was going to be performing. So, I mean, I hit Mike up. I say, hey, man, any way you can get us hooked up with some tickets and backstage passes? He said, let me shoot him a text real quick. Next thing you know, Jellyroll texted me, and he's like, hey, man, got you hooked up. And I'm like,
dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, man, let's do it.
And,
so it was cool, man. Which I got to meet him that night. We hung out, and we, shot the shit for a few minutes, and it was cool.
Cool, man. Yeah, I was listening to Michael Chandler's podcast, and I know Jellyroll brought you. I think he brought you up, and Jason Knight. So he's big fans of both of you guys. That's cool, though. I'd love to go to it. How was the concert? Was it pretty good?
Oh, it was awesome, dude. Probably. And I'm not a concert guy. I haven't been to a whole bunch of concerts, but that's something I would definitely do again. One of the best and coolest experiences I've ever had.
Yeah, he's coming to Tampa soon, so I'm I'm debating on going or not. But David, you got anything?
I would definitely do it, man. It was badass.
Cool, man.
Yeah, I know Chandler said something that was pretty funny. It might have been that Jellyroll podcast where he was like, y'all were cutting weight and Tough, and he was like, he was playing Jellyroll or something on the phone while y'all were cutting weight.
Yeah, well, that was Jason. So we're all in the sauna, and me and Jason ain't even fighting. We're just sitting in the sauna just to support Roe and Austin. They had fights on that first week. And, in the Ultimate Fighter house, you are not allowed to have any music. Like, they literally took the antenna off the sauna. The sauna actually had a radio in it. But they take the antenna off the sauna, and you can't use no music. We're like, hey, Mike, man, can you play us some music? Like, what y'all want us to do? And Jason said, hey, play some Jellyroll. That's my boy. But no, he just, man, what song? Slid it under the freaking door, and we jammed the Jellyroll while we was cutting weight.
Cool,
That's
man.
Hilarious.
What's the reason for that? Why don't they allow music?
I think just more of a copyright stuff. They can't. Same thing like if you post a video on Facebook and you got music playing, they'll take it down or whatever.
Gotcha. Did you care whatever team you went on? Did you care if you were going on Connor or Chandler's team?
I did. And just from the past experiences, you've seen Conor McGregor on Tough already as a coach. You've seen how he coaches. You've seen what he does. He doesn't coach, really. He doesn't go to the corners. He lets his guys do all the work, and then that was just one reason why I didn't want to be on Conor's team. number two reason is I really wanted to learn wrestling from Michael Chandler. So I was praying that I got on his team, and I'm very happy I did.
How was Ryan Bader on the team? Was he a pretty good coach, or
one of the coolest freaking dudes I've ever met, man? And of course, I've always been a fan of Ryan Bader, just not like a big fan. Of course, now I'm a big fan once you meet him, once these guys help you out so much. But no, definitely, man. That's one thing I can say. Our coaches, it's not only how they coach, it's just the relationships that they came and built with us in that short period of time. And I can't say enough good things about Ryan Bader and all the other coaches. Super cool guy.
Yeah, it seemed, and based off everything Chandler said, it seemed like you guys had a good team aspect going on.
Oh, sure.
I mean, obviously, you guys kind of made Connor's team. They had some serious issues with you guys, so it would have been crazy if you guys had a clean sweep.
That close, man. Close, for some reason it's crazy. It always happens like that, right? I don't think there's ever been a clean sweep on the Ultimate Fighter. You always have that one. And by the way that one started out, you was like, oh, well, yep. You might as well go ahead and send Connor's team home.
I think you had the toughest guy in Lee Hammond too on that team. Like I was saying before kind of the fight actually happened, I was like, he's probably the toughest prospect in the house from like my research. So, and then you fight him, then you go fight Jason, then you go fight Austin. So you had a hard path in there too.
Yeah, I think so. And what kind of made Lee so difficult is, they let us break down a little bit of film on some of the guys, but most of the guys been fighting LFA, Titan, regional promotions that you can find stuff on. And I didn't even know Lee fought Bellator at the time because we couldn't find the fight. When Chandler started trying to look up fights or the producers, it's like maybe they didn't give us the Bellator fight because they didn't want that on TV or something, or for the UFC, since it wasn't like a feeder to the UFC. But all I knew is he was 4-0, 5-0, and we got to see 10 seconds of fight that he had when he was 18 or 17 or something like that. That was amateur, and another clip of when he was a pro. And I'm like, I just don't even know what I'm walking into. But everybody on that team was like, yeah, man, Lee's legit. And I think he is.
And how was that Boston experience for the tough final?
It was cool, man. Maybe not exactly what I expected. Of course, every Ultimate Fighter finale is always like a fight night that's in Vegas or something like that. But they kind of changed things up a little bit on us and threw us on a pay-per-view card. So I mean, I was cool with it. I'm always down to go see new places. I've never been to Boston, but it was definitely a good experience.
And I wanted to ask your opinion on this. Why is it? I know it's kind of probably out of your control, but why did they put you guys on the prelims and not on?
Yeah, so I think the reason for that is just because the simple fact that the whole show had aired on ESPN, right? So everybody that's been watching The Ultimate Fighter throughout the 12 weeks have been watching it free on ESPN. So I think for that reason, they didn't want to put it on a pay-per-view and make everybody buy the pay-per-view that's been watching. Since The Ultimate Fighter was on ESPN, I think that's why they had to keep those fights on ESPN.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, I'm not trying to hate on the main event, but I mean, I enjoyed watching your guys' fights better than some of the ones in the upper card.
Right.
Yeah, sure. And I mean, the card was an okay card, but it wasn't like the most stacked card you ever seen, right? Mm-hmm. I thought the Ultimate Fighter final fights was definitely, they definitely could have been pay-per-view worthy.
Yeah, for sure. David, what'd you have?
No, I was just saying, yeah, I thought they were perfectly, like, hindsight, watching the whole card, obviously the Sean O'Malley knockout, I was like, for that, like, card and as, like, mid as that main card kind of was, I think y'all are perfectly placed after the fact because, like he said, those were the most exciting fights of the night for me was watching you guys. And then for a while, you're just kind of watching and then you get the Sean O'Malley knockout. So, yeah, it would have been nice to see on pay-per-view, but I think to keep the crowd engaged, y'all are probably placed in the right spot. So I guess they kind of did know what they were doing in that sense.
Yeah, for sure. And I fought in the UFC several times, right? But a lot of times when I fight, I'm always early, and a lot of times the crowd is not even there yet. You got a few people here and there, but I can tell you, man, when I walked out for the prelims, that place was like sold out. It was going crazy. So I think as long as you got fans in the in the stands when you fight, I think it's always good. It doesn't matter where.
For sure. Are you strictly focused on 155?
As of right now, yeah. I might not be the biggest 155er on the roster, but I feel like I still present a lot of problems for a lot of the guys out there. So as of right now, that's kind of where I'm going to hang out, man. I've spent a lot of my career at 145 pounds. And, one thing I can say about that is just I don't enjoy fighting as much, whenever you got to, dedicate your whole training camp to cutting weight. So, instead of cutting 35 pounds, I'm only cutting 25 pounds. So I'm good with that. And as of right now, I think I'm just going to keep it 155.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
David, you got anything?
Yeah, I did want to ask you this. I know with the Contender Series, you were on the first season, one of the first, obviously with the IV controversy, but you were one of the first contracts. Kind of what was that experience like?
That was cool too, and at that time, man, we was at the Pearl at the Palms. They put us up in a nice, hotels. I even think I had a suite for some reason. So it was pretty badass. And I'm thinking, yeah, man, I made it. This is what I want. I want this feeling. I can go to my window in the hotel room and look out the window and just see all of Vegas. And I'm like, man, this is legit. This is cool. And, and I was never thinking that, I might or might not get a contract. In my mind, hey, if I win, I get a contract. And I was able to get that fight or get that victory and get the contract. And it was definitely a great experience. And it was definitely one of the funnest fights I've ever had.
Cool, man. Pre-Ultimate Fighter, didn't you sign with Eagle FC?
I did. So the organization that I was in before that kind of like went under, and I was in the finals of a tournament for their organization and for their title, and they called and it was like, hey, yeah, man, they're just I don't know if we're gonna do it. So I'm like, all right, well, just release me so I can go sign somewhere. And my manager hit me up one day and he's like, welcome to Eagle FC. And I'm like, all right, cool, because at this time I don't have no real expectations to going back to the UFC because I already been there twice, and I'm like, nobody makes it back a third time. So I wasn't even looking at the UFC's doorstep. I was thinking Bellator or PFL or something like that at the time. And when they signed me to Eagle, I was making about the same amount of money as I would in Bellator or anything else. So I was cool with it. It's just we never got a deal done, never got a bout agreement, and never got a chance to fight.
Gotcha. That seems like the story from like we've talked to Cody, Jason, other guys, and that's always they were like we just couldn't get a fight done even after post pandemic, because I had high hopes for that promotion because obviously I watched Khabib as a fight fan and stuff and watched a couple of their I liked the promotion, like the fights they did have were good fights. So
yeah, I mean I thought they was doing a good job, and man they was paying good money, and I actually cornered one of my guys at an Eagle event. So, I got to go there. I got to see the FLX arena or something they was calling it that they was using. Mm-hmm. Nice place, man. And I remember I even talked to Ali that night because Ali was like their matchmaker, and he was like, I'll see you in July. And I'm like, all right, man, let's and never happened, which I did. They were calling me. They never did a show again, but they was wanting me or offering me Kevin Lee. And they was going to pay me like really good money for it too. And I'm like, done. And that would have been at like 165. So I wouldn't even really had to cut weight. But I'm like, at this point in my career, man, if I can make a good payday and fight a name like Kevin Lee, then I'll do it. But,
sure.
Deal never got done, never happened. And they never did a show again after that.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, I wish they would have continued, but I don't really know what the real reason is.
Yeah.
But do you have any final thoughts or anything like that?
Me?
Yes, sir.
Not really, man. Just I'm enjoying life. I didn't know if I would ever have a chance to be in an organization like the UFC again. So I'm enjoying every second of it. I think that's a big difference from the first couple times I was in the UFC till now, man. I don't know if I ever really enjoyed it. So I'm just trying to live it up.
Is there any big names that you want to fight eventually? or here soon?
I definitely want to fight a lot of the top guys, man. You know, I'm not really interested in going backwards. I feel like winning the show is a huge accomplishment. I feel like that should put me at up there a little bit in the UFC. Of course, I called out Paddypimblett after the Ultimate Fighter final. I would love that fight to happen, but if
we
not,
would love
man,
that fight.
you know, I feel like that fight makes sense. I feel like the UFC, you don't want to give nobody like far behind him, but I mean, he's not a top 15 yet, and I don't even know if he's a top 20. So I feel like I should be somewhere around top 25, you know, winning the show and beating some of the guys that I've beat and some of the guys that I've fought. So I like that matchup, man. But there's so many matchups that I like, man. And you know, I know Bobby Green just got booked, but I was thinking about that fight. Bobby Green, Tony Ferguson, Dan Hooker. You know, just I feel like, you know, I've been fighting long enough and I've been in the UFC a lot of other times, and I've fought some of the toughest guys that have went on to be ranked in the top 15, top 10. I feel like, you know, I don't know if I do or not, but I feel like I deserve to get a name like that.
For
Well,
sure.
hopefully, I mean, Paddypimblett, I think that would be a phenomenal fight for you, and I think you'd win. I honestly think you'd win that.
The O2 fight night, you versus Patty, like that needs to happen. Do it in London too.
Yeah, and see, I didn't even think about that. I'm like, man, I'm not big on really going out of the country, but I would do it. You know, if they said, hey, you can have Patty, but you got to do it in London, you know, hey, let's go. Put me on a plane, let's roll.
Well, hey, let's do it. Hopefully they make that happen, man. That'd be awesome. David, you got anything to add?
I don't, man. I appreciate you being cool
Yeah,
and just kind of letting us interview you and, you know, kind of working with us on times and things.
No, you know, ain't no worries, man. I appreciate you guys having me on.
No problem, man. Well, I appreciate it, Kurt.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me.
All right, thanks, man. Have a good Sunday.
Yep, you too.